Hi, I'm Kyle McAuley with new Filmmakers Los Angeles and MovieMaker magazine. We're sitting here at the Camrich Los Angeles showroom in West Hollywood with Andrew Gray and Adam Gray. Today we're going to talk about their film, Fly, Colt Fly, The Legend of the Barefoot Bandit. Let's watch a clip.
Colton Harris Moore may have taught himself how to fly.
By the time sheriff's deputies were alerted, the pilot was nowhere to be found.
SWAT teams fan out across Granite Falls today in search of a suspect considered armed and dangerous.
We're well beyond the Robin Hood stage. We're into the John Dillinger stage.
One morning, the cops came. They asked me, have you seen Colt? I said, yeah, we just sat down and had breakfast together. God, did they get mad.
I don't think most of us thought of him as a dangerous kid.
I think he just got really addicted to adrenaline.
Want to be a professional criminal.
Call it the Colton craze.
How do you steal an airplane?
He's been on the run for like 2 years from the FBI and the cops.
Well, who is this kid? He kind of is self-taught in everything. He learned how to steal. He did pretty well at it.
So, my first question for both of you gentlemen, what was your inspiration?
Well, we were working on a script about Billy the Kid, and I'd always been into sort of folk heroes and outlaws and that sort of thing, and I was doing some research, and some writer was comparing Colton Harris Moore to Billy the Kid because he was this young outlaw who nobody could catch and was becoming more and more infamous. And when we first heard about him, I think he had stolen his third airplane, and we didn't know anything about him other than he was this teenager who was stealing Cessnas, crashing them, and running off, and the police couldn't catch him. They had the FBI was involved at that point, and there was these big manhunts, and the story was just sort of unbelievable, and it was ongoing. So we got sucked in, and I guess we started getting ready to pitch within a few weeks. We're like, this is a great story.
Yeah, kid's crazy. He's like 17 years old, teaches himself how to fly. He's like jumping out of speeding cars. Yeah, he's just crazy.
And the fact that he wasn't wearing shoes, that he had this moniker of the Barefoot Bandit, it was just really intriguing. And then sort of as we started pitching it, the story kept evolving. Like it was, you would think that was the end, but then no, there would be like another plane, and he's like flying through the Vancouver Olympics no-fly zone, like during the opening ceremonies illegally in a stolen plane, and then landing and escaping and robbing more stores, and it just went on. And I think by the time we got close to the end, we were calling our finance saying he just stole a plane in Idaho and crashed it in the Bahamas, and they still haven't got him. And the finance like, okay, go ahead, start shooting.
Yeah. As new filmmakers, you really have to court the fundraisers to get going. So we kept coming after him.
Yeah. So were you guys at all drawn to this whole story because it was almost like a fantasy for yourself? I mean, do you think as a 17-year-old you would have loved to live a life like that, a rugged outlaw?
Perhaps in a fantasy way. Like I was certainly as a teenager, I was into a lot of trouble and stuff, and you have this sense of immortality, and I think Colton certainly had that. He was doing things that were just insane, and
yeah, and that's certainly that's what a lot of young people across the world, especially in Washington State, were thinking. I mean, it came across as really cocky. He steals a Mercedes, jumps out of it, and lets it crash into a building and runs away barefoot. Flipping the bird to the cops. And then they look in the car, and they find just an unbelievable amount of stolen goods, just just in his backpack in the car. And in there, they find a camera which was stolen from one house, and they look in the camera, and he's taken all these self-portraits.
Yeah.
All these self-portraits, and he's like wearing the Mercedes T-shirt that he stole from the owner of the Mercedes, and kids especially just loved it.
And that picture actually became sort of like every article and every news story that came out was this one picture of him lying in the woods listening to an iPod in his stolen Mercedes T-shirt, and it sort of became the iconic image of him, which is in our
and it drove people nuts. I mean, some people found it amusing, but other people were just tortured by this story week after week. They can't find this kid.
Yeah. I sure hope to see an autobiography by him one day.
That would be interesting.
That would be cool.
I've read, like he wrote a letter to the judge during his trial, and his writing is really incredible. I mean, he's actually a talented writer, very, considering he, I think he stopped going to school in
grade 10, maybe?
Yeah.
Right.
He's not that educated, but he's obviously a very bright guy and gifted writer, so that would be neat.
Right. Well, he's self-educated, which is another thing that was really interesting. Like, he taught himself to fly, but it wasn't overnight. He was stealing airplane manuals and just doing an incredible amount of research ever since he was a kid.
Well, he became a folk hero. I mean, I guess that was the other part of the story that really intrigued us. Here was this modern version of an outlaw folk hero that was spreading through the internet, through Facebook and Twitter, and so people were setting up fan pages, and there was like 100,000 followers, which is pretty good on Facebook, and there were T-shirts being printed. And because now we're in the digital age, all the news stories were archived online, so you could sort of follow the story from him being like a 14-year-old burglar up to being chased across the country by the FBI and Black Hawk choppers.
What are the next steps from here for you guys?
Well, we've got another film we're going to production on right away, and actually we have 2 documentaries in the next 6 months that are going their way, both sort of true crime stories that we're excited about.
And both will probably use the same kind of multimedia approach, where we combine animation and recreations and archival footage, and that sort of helps you get an overall view of these stories and how they come through the media, and how they come into our culture, I guess.
Very cool. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for joining us. It was a pleasure.